I love my husband, but he has to stop texting me today.
The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're webcasting to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. It's also the home for Autism Live. We're thrilled to be here with you on this Wednesday morning live. We are going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. In our first hour, we have Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh with us for a segment we call Ask Dr. Doreen. That's going to begin in just a few minutes, and she's going to be answering your questions live here on the show. Now, in our second hour, we do Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Allspod Jackson will be joining me. And our special guest today, are you ready? Dave Humphreys from Kirkman Labs is going to be giving us new information about two very important studies looking at ways to prevent autism from happening ever. So very exciting news, plus a new probiotic that Kirkman Labs is bringing to market that I personally am excited about. We can't wait to tell you about that. And then our other guest this morning is Vince Redman, licensed marriage and family therapist. He's going to be with us talking about some of the things that we all have to deal with in life when you have an individual who's on the autism spectrum in your family. We hope that you will find that there is something for everyone here and that you'll want to participate with us. So Samantha is going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate, while I remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, there's a lot of different things to do. One of them is to watch the live show. All you have to do is click on the triangle that's on the computer screen and it will begin to play either the live show or the most recently recorded live show. Now, to the side of all that is something we call the live feature. If you put your cursor in the box that says your question, start typing, hit enter, and it will automatically show up here on my screen. You don't have to have a credit card, a username, a login, a password, any of that. It's all free and pretty instant gratification. I do want to give you a programming note that we are expecting to begin broadcasting our show not only on our homepage, but on Facebook Live. And we're going to be giving you guys information because depending on how it works out, we may be asking you to only ask questions on Facebook Live. But we're going to give you updates on that leading up to hopefully next week. We're going to roll that out for you because we had such a fun time being live on Facebook and we reached a whole new audience and we want to get back to getting to more people. So anyway, keep posted on that. In the meantime, though, if you want to be watching any of our older shows, you absolutely can do that in any one of the sites that Samantha just showed you. And there's also a memo tab on autism-live.com that you can go to. It looks like a little memo board, and if you click on that, you can get the 100 most recent episodes. Okay, it's time, my friends, for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. We have with us Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, one of my favorite people on the face of the earth. She's a true autism expert. Good morning. I love this hour of being able to sit here and learn as you, it's like you hold a class that we all get to participate in. And it's lovely because you get to ask questions from home. It's totally free for you to do that. We do like to remind you, though, that there is no way. Dr. Grandpichet is a true expert in the field of autism. I believe the preeminent expert in the field of autism. And she's been working in this field for 30 years. She's also a visionary in this field. But still, having said all that, there's no way for even someone of her caliber to give you individual specific advice. So we ask you to write in with your questions, give as much information as you can, and know that she's going to be giving you general information that may help you in your decision tree of figuring out what to do next.
Exactly. We will give the best advice we can, but please keep in mind it might not pertain since we don't know your child very well.
And I really do think of it as a class because it's like expanding your mind so that you're in on the equation and looking and having more information with which to do something with, make decisions with.
Right.
So we so appreciate that you're here this hour and able to answer questions. I want to start with a couple of questions that we have several viewers that watch this show that just are regulars who contribute on a daily basis, and I do mean the word contribute. I feel like they're part of our bigger staff, you know?
That's right.
And this first set of questions comes from one of those really special viewers, DJ Phillips, who's been on the show before. And we just love DJ. And man, DJ keeps us in line.
DJ is awesome. Good
He
job,
is awesome.
DJ.
Yes, and DJ, boy, if we blow something here, he's my QA.
Will he tell you?
Yeah, oh, the phone starts ringing before the show is over, and he's like, "Look, you put this in the wrong playlist folder. This needs to be marked this."
That's great.
DJ is on us, like, you know, he's going to make sure he is quality control here
That's awesome.
at Autism Live.
That's awesome.
We really love him. So DJ wrote in. I'm gonna condense it a little bit. Wrote in asking about a young man that he's familiar with and very familiar with the family. In particular, we want to start by talking about sleep patterns, that he and the family are noticed that we seem to have the most sleepless nights during the spring and the fall when the weather and the seasons change, when the temperature fluctuates more than 15 to 20 degrees in 24 hours. For example, 60 one day and then 40 the next. Not sure if the time change has anything to do with it because it also seems to happen around that time. He mentions that they've been trying tranquil sleep, something that you have talked about before on the show. And if they keep a good regimen, it seems to help. They do the chewable tablets, give him 2 tablets between 9:30 and 10. If he isn't showing signs of settling down or calming down 30 to 45 minutes later, they give them either another tablet or 1 to 2 milliliters of straight liquid melatonin. This seems to help significantly in the past 4 to 5 months. They've also noticed that having the same schedule at home and at his rehab center and with everyone who participates in his care seems to help. But regardless of how much sleep he gets, he's not allowed to be in bed more than 8 to 9 hours. If he's really tired during the day, they do allow a nap, but nothing too long. And they want to know if there's any other suggestions to give the parents in terms of sleep. He did want you to know, he called me later and left me more information that this gentleman that we're talking about does have seizures once in a while, so that is a part of something. And the family is interested in setting up an appointment with you. They're in the upstate Buffalo area of New York and want to know, but they're willing to travel a little bit. They just can't get all the way to California. They want to know how they would find time on your schedule if you happen to be in New York or Rochester, where I know we have offices. So we'll start there, and then there is a follow-up.
Sure. So, yeah, DJ, you've figured this out pretty well. There is actually a seasonal disorder as well that exists. He may have that. I don't know. There's a lot of people that have seasonal changes, whether it affects their sleep or anxiety, depression. Those are some things that do often change with seasons. In his case, it sounds like the melatonin is working for him. I hesitate to do more than 6 milligrams of melatonin. That's 3 tablets. That's a little bit too much. One of the things that I know, and I can't make this recommendation, he is a patient, he's an individual who has a physician actively watching over him because he has seizures and he has all these other things going on. I really would recommend that some sort of conversation take place with his physician. One of the things I know that some of the parents of our adult patients have told us is that if they use 2 of the melatonin, of the tranquil sleep chewables, and it still isn't enough, they will supplement with Benadryl, which is pretty harmless and usually comes in a dosage of 25 milligrams. That's diphenhydramine, which is Benadryl. And if a lot of people tell me that the combination of 25 milligrams of Benadryl and then 1 or 2 of the tranquil sleep is fantastic sleep. It's deep sleep, it's comfortable sleep, and it actually helps the individual feel really well rested. So that's something else to consider, but I would suggest you throw that out at his physician and make sure that the physician says this is something safe to do for him, and then you can do that. But it sounds like, and then of course the other stuff is like making sure it's dark in his room. A lot of our kids are very, very sensitive to light and to sound. We don't realize that, you know this, DJ, that a lot of the patients have sound sensitivity, so they might be waking up from things that even we don't typically hear, like maybe the sprinklers go on outside or the trash truck outside, something that might be waking them up or disturbing their sleep. But it's a great idea to make sure he doesn't stay in bed more than 8 to 9 hours. That's of course very helpful. I don't know that you want to allow a nap. I'm not sure it's appropriate to have a nap at his age. I think that we get used to that, and I think you just want to kind of work away from the nap. I think this individual needs to have some stuff that he's engaged with and interested in, and of course it's very, very difficult because he has all these additional disabilities. So I would say you might want to perhaps help aid his sleep also with something like calming music or meditative music. He might enjoy that if there's a chance to get him like Bose headphones. I'm one of those people that has a hard time sleeping when there's a lot of stuff going on around me. And I have to tell you, my sound reduction or noise reduction headphones are unbelievable. Like they just make me feel like I'm in a sleep booth. Like as soon as I put them on, I am gone. And it doesn't even matter what's playing. Like I don't have to have I just want to put them on because as soon as you turn them on, there's white noise. And they're so fantastic. So that's something you might want to try. You know, given that this individual has also vision problems, we really need to allow him to try to use sound in more ways. So it would be really important for this person to like maybe be able to have, if there's access to a computer, allow him to have like editing software or something where he can make the music or the sound, he can control it. You know, like with visual problems and the CP and the autism and all of this, he has very little control over any aspect of his environment. So I feel like you need to come up with ideas of how to use his sensory, his touch, and his auditory a little bit more so that he can help himself stay interested, motivated, stimulated. You know, if he's not stimulated during the day, he's also not going to sleep well.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things that I was thinking about, is that I even at this age, and I didn't share at the beginning that he is an adult between the ages of 24 and 25 and does have, he is blind.
Yeah.
Has cerebral palsy and has autistic tendencies. So that's a lot to deal with. But still,
that's a lot, yeah.
I always think back to a friend of mine who has the most well-adjusted young male, now they're adult children, but I always remember as kids, they were just the kids that everybody goes, oh, these are the kids that I want to have. Your kids are like that too. Your kids are polite and well-adjusted, and they seem happy, and you know what I mean?
Thank you.
And I remember saying to this woman, you know, what is your secret? Because you have these 2 boys, and a lot of times, you know, boys feed off each other's energy. And she said, oh, I just run them like dogs during the day. We swim every day. And I run them like dogs so that they fall into bed. And I want to like get a poster that says "Run them like dogs."
I love that.
Because we all kind of need that.
Oh yeah. Oh
you know,
my gosh.
some sort of activity.
Absolutely.
And it can be physical
absolutely.
and mental depending on who. Have you ever seen when Ellen DeGeneres does a whole stand-up comedy routine about what it's like when she lays down to go to sleep
No,
and her
no.
brain goes, did I leave that money in my pocket? And then she goes through, no, it's fine. Oh, but what if it goes into the laundry?
Yeah.
And then she gets up and then she does three things and then she goes to bed. It's a whole half hour about how
That's
crazy we get
hilarious.
when we go to bed. So, but I think that being physically and mentally tired
Absolutely.
makes that monkey
Absolutely.
brain kind of thinking diminish.
No question about it. And we don't know, of course, what the possibilities are for this individual.
Right.
Swimming, I find, is a huge help for individuals with CP if they can learn to swim and manage that. Any kind of physical exercise, absolutely, I'm 100% in agreement with that. It doesn't have to be full body either. It could be just upper body if necessary, but also mental activity. You know, a lot of, because he's blind, there are a lot of things that individuals who have visual difficulties engage in and are interested in, like looms, you know, using a loom. It's very sensory as well, and then like knit, that allows you to produce very wonderful things. And it's touch, and you know, you can have music in the background, whatever. That's one example that just comes to mind. But I think, yeah, if you can come up with ideas that are both mental and or different activities, mental and physical activities, these will certainly help with the individual's exhaustion, at least.
Yes, let's get exhausted. Now, the second part of his question, there was some head banging that was happening at his day hab. And DJ had talked to the mom and encouraged them to have a BCBA on site to conduct an FBA. See, DJ's watching. To figure out what the function of the behavior is. And his question is the day hab responsible to do the FBA, or are the parents?
Right.
He used to bang his head to the point of needing a soft helmet. He stopped for a while and then recently started to do it again, but not badly enough to need a helmet. And again, the mother would like to make an appointment.
Right.
And what's the best way to make the appointment?
Well, it's very difficult, but I think, you know, it depends on when I go out to the East Coast, and that's never really something I can predict. I know that it's not going to happen the end of this year.
Okay.
I mean, all my trips are already booked until probably February now.
Okay.
I've sworn to myself never to go to upstate New York in February. I've done that.
I've lived in upstate New York in February, and I know why.
I've done that. I spent about, I think, 8 hours on sitting at Rochester Airport, followed by going to New York City, I think, and then getting stuck in JFK for another 4 hours or something. So
good time.
Yeah, the upper, that area
you want
of
to
the
go
country.
in October and see the leaves.
Exactly. So
early October before
or the summer.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
do go to New York quite a bit, but it won't. And I have not been into the Rochester office for a while. Maybe I will be going up there. I'm just thinking around summer of next year or spring of next year. So that around that time, DJ, if they're still involved, please get in touch with my assistant. You know her. And she will let you know what my travel schedule is, and then I will definitely try to book them to come and see me in Rochester. Would probably be the place.
And in the meantime, there are people in Rochester that are
no
card
doubt.
people who could
There's a card
consult.
office, absolutely. There's a card office in Fairport, which is right around Rochester, and it's very good. We have some senior people. We have a lot of adults in that center. So the people there can definitely get involved with you and help you. One of our old senior supervisors, Denise Ryan, is in that office, and she can certainly be in contact and help. She's been doing this for over 20 years, and she's a very good BCBA. Now, also in Rochester, you have the University of Rochester, and one of my colleagues, Dr. Tristram Smith, is there, and there is a very, very good program for individuals with autism, so they might be able to help as well. I can't speak highly enough of that program as well.
I did not know that that's where Tristram Smith was.
Yeah, that's where he is. Yeah, and then also to answer this question about the headbanging and so on. See, the headbanging, and to me, is another indication of the fact that this individual is not stimulated enough. You know, so he's either doing it out of frustration or out of lack of stimulation, as one or the other, right? So in terms of functions, the function with headbanging is either I want something or I want to avoid something and I can't express it and I'm frustrated, so this is how I'm going to communicate it. Or he's actually, wants some sort of stimulation, and this gives him some. Pain is stimulation, obviously.
And sometimes I've been told, and correct me if I'm wrong, for individuals who have sight issues, by hitting their head, it actually can create colors that they can see.
Yes.
Which we can sort of understand then why you would go through the pain in order to be able to see colors if you were bored out of your mind.
Absolutely. And also, depending on the direction of hitting, if it's sideways, it's more likely visual stimulation. If it's forward, it could also be activating the parasympathetic, which means that it is calming. So, whatever the reason may be, the way to interact with it, I suppose, is two things. One is to make sure that he has a form of communication, a way to communicate his needs. Obviously, there are, you would have to teach him some sort of, for our kids who are visually impaired, we do a PEX type system that is touch. So there's textures involved with it. I'm not sure if there probably is some form of Braille system that is a picture exchange communication system. You might want to look into that.
I believe there is.
There is. There must be. So that would be the direction to go. It's really, really important that he has a way to communicate with the outside world. I can't stress that is the most important thing that you can do, is to teach him how to interact with the world. Since he can't use a Proloquo, which is the iPad, and he can't really use a PEX system because he can't see, you would need to have some sort of textural system, which if there's a Braille system for PEX, that's the way to go. And that is the most vital thing for this individual. Everyone should be focused on using that and teaching him how to identify the icons using touch. That'll change his world. Being able to communicate with people and telling people what you want, don't want, what's bothering you, etc., and a PEX system can go all the way, obviously, is the key to his success. Otherwise, he becomes isolated, he becomes frustrated, people have to guess at his needs, it just becomes completely out of control. All the time, every single time I have an adult that I start working with and they're frustrated, the very first thing I do is teach them communication. As soon as they learn, oh, I can actually communicate and get my needs met, everything dissipates. All the challenging behavior goes away.
Yeah.
So that's the most important thing right now.
Absolutely. If you think for just a second about the story of Helen Keller, and that before Annie Sullivan came to work with Helen Keller, they thought she was a wild animal. She ran around the dining room, she ate off of everybody's plate, she threw things wherever, did whatever she wanted to do. And as soon as Annie got her to understand the first word and then the second word, I really think the second word was the pivotal word, everything changed. And she became a world, speaker, wrote books.
Exactly.
This is a woman in a different century who was blind and deaf. If we ever need to be reminded what a difference functional communication can give somebody, that's it.
That's exactly a perfect example, right. And DJ, I don't want to forget to answer the question, which is that does the HAB center, are they responsible or are the parents? It really depends on what kind of day HAB center it is. If it is a state-funded day HAB, then they are responsible. If it's a private day HAB, then the parents are responsible. So that's really the issue.
Good to know. We have got to take a break. I've made you work way too long.
Sure.
But we're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with more of your questions for Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. Stick with us. Parent to parent, you might be asking yourself, how on earth can I afford ABA therapy for my child? Well, the short answer is you can't. No one can. It's really expensive and it's overwhelming to most families. But the story doesn't end there, fortunately. The first thing that I want you to think about is tapping insurance resources. So many insurance companies are paying for ABA therapy right now. So that's your first best bet. Make sure and see if your insurance company is providing benefits for ABA therapy, and check back often. Now, if you see that you don't have insurance right now for ABA, don't panic, there are still other resources. The next place to go is to your local support groups and ask them what local resources there are. That's a great place to ask for information, because often states and even counties have support for ABA. And then beyond that, you might consider applying for grants. There are many fabulous grants out there to help you to get support for your ABA therapy. But most important, it's absolutely essential that you get ABA services for your child. We know that that's essential for all of our children, and that you won't be able to do it on your own. So seek out those services and support groups that will help you to fund your ABA journey. It's really important to remember that all behaviors happen for a reason. Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grandpichet, and she's answering your questions in real time. And we're so appreciating having the ability to take a tour of her mind and find out things. I always say you have a beautiful mind, Dr.
Thank
Grandpichet.
you. But it's so much
wonderful
fun doing these things with you, because you always have fantastic ideas as well, and it just invigorates me.
Well, sometimes I just need to shut my pie hole and let you talk. Working on that.
No. No, not
But
at
in
all.
any case, I want to move on to the next question that we had. This pulls particular heartstrings with me. They said, I have a 13-year-old boy who we adopted through social services as an infant. I really need help. It's a long story, of course, but he has so many issues now, and I would love to talk to someone who could help me get on a sensible path for him. Got any suggestions?
Right.
And I just want to say, you know, we a couple of years ago, we had really wanted to adopt,
That's
and
right.
we went and started the process, and I'm still not sure what to do, but I know when we went to go through LA County adoption, they were talking about how many kids there are with behavioral issues in the system. And the phrase that the woman said to me was, oh, those children are unadoptable.
Oh my gosh.
That still keeps me up. I know that there's so much work that needs to be done, to support families who do adopt children that eventually they find out have behavioral problems. I feel like that's a whole area that there's not enough discussion about. And I don't know what to do, but at some point it's going to be high on my agenda to figure out what we do to convince the social workers that behavioral issues are behavioral issues are behavioral issues, and that we don't give up on anyone.
Right. But I think, Shannon, my initial response to that is, oh my gosh, we should get in touch with LA Social Services and see if there's a way to actually work with these kids before they're adopted. To get them to a point where they are, according to them, adoptable. Like actually teach the kids how to manage behavior and stuff before,
Exactly. And I said to the woman at the time, I said, I happen to know people who are very good at this, and left her my card, and I think I did a follow-up card, but maybe we needed to have this conversation to spur me into saying no. And now funding is different than it was. Maybe there's more funding because now there's Medicare and Medicaid and Medi-Cal to cover those kinds of things where there wasn't at that time.
There wasn't, right.
So maybe now is the moment. So thank you, first of all, for writing that question so that we could have this conversation, and maybe there's something we can do about that.
It would be amazing if we can just change the life of one child in the system. Yeah.
But I think about this person who obviously has been through some stuff.
Yes.
And that's not all that uncommon. And it's not all that uncommon to be at 13 and seeing a whole bunch of issues. We see that more and more.
Right.
That people are coming forward and saying, hey, maybe if this had been caught when my child was 4 or 5, but it wasn't. So what do you think,
and
Dr.
it's harder. It's a lot harder when you're a teen, because there's a lot more going on in the world of a teen, and they have much more freedom. So you have much less control, and this is very, very difficult. But I mean, to answer this person's question and request for help, there's a lot of stuff that you need to do at this point. I don't know if your child has other diagnoses What I would do is probably start there. I would try to identify a diagnosis for your child just so you can identify what is actually going on. I don't know if this individual is on the autism spectrum or not. If it's just behavioral problems, you still need to go see a psychologist who will give you a diagnosis. If you're in the LA area, we have the psychologists to do that. I do that, but we also have our healthcare clinic, and there we do a lot of diagnosis. So that's step one, because the diagnosis, although it might not be meaningful, I'm not always into labels, I don't care, but it's meaningful in the sense that it gives you an idea of what the problems are. So, is it a communication issue? Is it just this individual has learned to behave badly to communicate? Is it that they really they need help learning other ways to communicate, or do they have some anxiety? Do they have depression? Do they have social issues? What is it that's leading to these behavior problems? From there, we've built, my focus being autism, of course, and all levels of autism, and very, very high functioning as well as very severely impacted autism. My focus has been building two things, which is the Institute for Behavioral Training and skills. And the Institute for Behavioral Training is a great place for you, regardless of what the problem is, whether it's autism or not, because on IBT's website, there's a lot of different modules for training which have to do with just managing challenging behavior. Now, if you have the opportunity, and not just you, I would seriously, this is a 13-year-old, please build a tribe first. Build people around yourself who will help you. Maybe get your close friends, cousins, I don't know, neighbors, your husband, whoever is willing to be part of that tribe, and together go on the IBT website and start looking at the modules that have to do with how to manage challenging behavior. You'll learn an incredible amount there about challenging behavior, how to manage it. There's a lot of books that are very good. Our book, the card book, gives you a lot of information also about managing behavior. You do have to learn that stuff. Another way to do that is to actually go for and try to become a board certified autism technician, the BCAT, or a registered behavior technician, the RBT. You learn a lot of stuff as you go towards that. IBT has a training package for those certificates as well. Train yourself. It's hard to not, like when a child at 13 is doing a bunch of stuff, you're like, you're at your wit's end and you almost want to react all the time. But you can get some idea within a week of training. So focus on teaching yourself that information first. And I love IBT's setup because it's all video and it's fantastic. You learn so much from our staff on there, and it's all our senior people producing these videos, and they're fantastic. So do that, and if you can do that and learn a little bit there, it'll really help you in terms of challenging behavior. And again, the reason we made skills is because there's a direct connection between challenging behavior and skill level. The more you know, the less you're going to act out. So if your child needs to learn skills, if your child is delayed in any way, can't communicate due to delays, then that's where you go. You go to skills. Skills will teach you, will show you the path of all the lessons and what you have to teach your child to be able to communicate. So those are the main things I want to say. Don't give up. There's a lot of help. I don't know where you are. In most cases, private insurance has coverage for autism in most states now. Of course, there's Medicaid help as well. So kind of, get your tools lined up first before you attack the situation. Get your own education, get your funding in place, get your tribe together to help you.
Absolutely. And I just want to say a little disclaimer for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders assessment centers. I think a lot of times people think, oh, well, if I take them to a place that's called the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, then they're going to diagnose them with autism. And I have seen how often that does not happen. I have seen someone say, oh, I have some questions, and recommended that they go to the assessment center, and had them come back and, oh, it's not autism, it's any one of so many other things. So I really hope that you don't let that stop you. I honestly feel like that's the best place to go, because
Definitely.
they will know if it is something that's autism related, but they will absolutely diagnose it if it's something that's not.
And I mean, we're limited. We don't have a huge staff. That center is actually called CPHC. It's the Card Psychology and Healthcare Clinic, and they're located here in California. But we have some reach in all of our other sites. We do also have a psychologist on the East Coast, but these folks are licensed psychologists. They have nothing to do with autism per se. They really are licensed psychologists, and they just provide diagnosis and assessment. So that's a really great place to go. Depending on where you are, a lot of universities also have a good diagnostic center. So that's really what you have to start with.
Okay. I got a couple of quick programming
Sure.
notes. To the person who said, Shannon, you were my own personal Oprah, the check is in the mail. I love you. What a nice thing to say. We had somebody write in and say, hello, I'm a first responder, firefighter, medic, and I have some questions.
Great.
Bring them, but you didn't tell us what they are, and I don't want to assume. So feel free to write those questions in now or whenever. Also want to say, somebody wrote in and said, will it be okay if a group shows this as a fundraiser? I'm in Kiwanis and we have a project for children who have autism, and I'm loving this. Now, I'm not sure what the this was. This is why we say be as specific as possible. Because if it's anything that is autism-live, please show it to your group. Feel free to do that. I know on the last show we had Carrie Bowers, and she was talking about a lot of different things, including a documentary, 2 different documentaries. So if it's one of those things, write in and let us know, and we'll reach out to Carrie to see if you can combine with her to do a fundraiser for your group. Okay. And then one of our other really regular guests that we love so much on the show, Mike Hipple, has written in response to the sleep question, says, I believe the moon plays a part in the change of sleep and sleeping and behavioral. And he wants to know what you think. Do you think the phases of the moon has anything to do with that?
Well, it's not just what I think. It's a known fact that there are actually seasonal related disorders, and sleep is definitely one of them. In fact, I forget the name of the disorders, but they're in the DSM.
Okay.
So there is a seasonal connection with some people, no question about it. It could very well be the moon. I personally, I would say I agree with you, Mike.
I'm
Yeah.
there. Okay. Next question. I'm a live-in caregiver for 2 young men on the spectrum. I'm looking for local community-based functions such as dances, clubs, etc. Is there a website that you know of that shares that kind of information? And first of all, we want to say, hey, what an awesome thing that you're a live-in caregiver and that you're watching the show and asking questions. Don't we all want to know that there are people out there, caregivers like that? That's a woohoo for me.
Yeah, honestly, that you care so much to be trying to find better stuff for them. That's fantastic. I would probably look on Love My Provider. I don't know if they have like clubs and so on, but that would be a good place to start. Love My Provider has, they're like the Yelp for services for autism. So they have a lot of different things on there that you can look for.
And there's lots of other places that you can find organizations in your area. But when it comes to events, can I tell you the newest thing that I have found that I love so much?
Yeah.
Is on Facebook. If you start to make friends with people in your community and you go to events on your Facebook page, and it tells you what the events are that you've been invited to. But if you scroll a little bit further, it tells you all of the events that all of your friends are interested in your area, and you can choose between today, this week, or this month, and you can go months into advance. The things that I find out about when I scroll down into that I otherwise would not know about.
That's amazing.
Like exciting things. And a lot of them, because I have a wide base of autism friends on Facebook, a lot of them for me are autism events.
That's fantastic.
And some of them are not autism events, but I can look at it and go, that would be a great event,
That's so
to
cool.
take people that are on the spectrum too. So, you go on your Facebook, you go to events, You scroll down past what it's showing you for your events. The first heading it says is things that you might be interested in, and that's things that your friends are interested in. And then below that, it just does things in your area.
That's so awesome.
It's fabulous. I showed that to my husband 2 days ago, and he was like, "What?" Especially because it's that time of year where there's a lot of like really
Fall
bizarre
events.
stuff,
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
fall
Halloween
events,
type
Halloween stuff,
That's cool.
and like there's some very interesting stuff in LA. I'll
That's
show you during a
amazing.
break.
I've never done that.
Yes. Okay, we're going to take a short break so I can show that to Dr. Grandpichet, and we'll be back with questions from you and having Dr. Grandpichet answer them right after these messages. Here, mid-swing on this wonderful day, this wonderful walk with Mr. Matt Asner. Talk to us about today's walk. Do we have any facts, figures, numbers, or just pure emotion?
Just pure emotion. I'm about to get the numbers. We'll see what it is.
Okay.
I think it's probably close to 1/6, probably. That's my feeling. But it's incredible. We had 55,000 people plus here today, and you know, I honestly, I've been here 7 years. It gets better and better and better. So.
And really what you've fostered here today is hope. I know that's your favorite four-letter word.
Where are we without hope?
Where are we?
Really, I mean, seriously, where are we without hope? Hope is everything. Hope is eternal.
This is a pretty big event. Every year I love it. What does this event mean to you?
Well, I just think it's great that you see so many people coming out to support, autism.
So we're here with Max Burkholder. There's a whole community of people that are going to love you no matter what you do, no matter where you go, no matter what you do. And that's the autism community. Are you okay with this? Is this a good thing?
I'm pretty okay with it. This seems to be a pretty happy, supportive community.
Well, what did you learn about autism through portraying this wonderful character?
Sort of the individuality of it, like with autism spectrum disorders, a tendency is to sort of generalize everybody with sort of the same degree of affliction as sort of exactly the same, and very generalize them a lot. But something I found while just talking to everybody, and that I tried to put into the characters, just the sense of individuality that all of them have, everybody has. And so at a certain point it became not really even portraying autism, it just sort of became portraying the character.
I want to say thank you on behalf of everybody for what you do.
That's very sweet.
To bring awareness and to raise money. That's a tremendous, tremendous legacy. But as a dad, you've got other things that you're doing as well.
Yeah.
I want to know, as a family, if you have any advice, what's been something that's been helpful to you personally?
Get your autistic kids out in the community. I mean, my son's got a guide dog, so he goes to a lot of cool places. He surfs, he skis, does gymnastics. He's actually trying Hebrew school. I'm not quite sure if he knows what's happening there, but he does all kinds of cool things, and he has a lot of friends. Right now, most of his friends are the adults who take care of him, and over time, hopefully he'll have more friends who are his age, and you'll see him walking around, and people won't be nervous around him. The dog's been very helpful with that. It's like the dog is like the most infectious thing in the world. Like, everybody wants to be near the dog, and he sees that, and he gets some of that affection laid onto him. So as a family, we're just there to support Tyler and make him happy.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grandpichet, who is just one of my favorite people on the face of the earth.
You're so kind.
No,
I
you
get
do
all
so
my
much.
reinforcers here today.
You do so much for so many people. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, last week we had almost an entire show that was about school issues, and there was one question that we didn't get to that I felt really bad about. Hello, ladies. I think my high-functioning third grader, age 9, is ready to move on from his star charts to a more age-appropriate behavior management system in the classroom. Any recommendations or resources that I can look into? So far, he's off to a great start this year. Woohoo. And I'd really like to keep it going, and thanks for your expertise.
That's awesome. So, I would talk to his teacher, because every teacher has their own equivalent of a star chart. Essentially it's called a token economy, and it can be as young or as mature as you want it to be. So ask the teacher, ask the resource people at your school to set up a token economy for your son and work with them. I mean, the visual look of it is whatever they want. The key to a token economy is just having enough reinforcers so there's a balance, so that each of the tokens, which in this case up till now he's had star charts, stars, but I mean, they could be actual tokens, they could be whatever, check marks, they could be satisfactories, whatever they are. But once you get a certain number of those, they are traded in for some valuable reinforcer. The importance of a token economy depends on the fact that the balance exists, so that you never put too many, let's say, stars for a small reinforcer. There has to be a balance so that the individual continues to be motivated, excuse me, to work for it. Now, the example of that, of course, is if you really think about it, going to work every day, we receive tokens. The tokens that we receive are money. Money is not a reinforcer, it's a token with which you can purchase real reinforcers. So if you work on a job that you work too hard for not enough money, you're going to quit. If so that's what I'm talking about. It has to be a balance between the system, and really that has to be built with the teacher, with the resource center, because they are the people who will be actually administering those tokens.
Yeah. At some point, I want to do a blog with all the spare time I have about all the different token economy charts that we had for GEM from the beginning of time. It's funny how like something cycles in and cycles out. When he was in kindergarten, it was simple. It was so simple. We had
X number of tasks, or
it was even simpler than that. When we first started, we had daddy dollars and Disney dollars.
Okay.
And we took and made fake money that had pictures of me and my husband on them.
Right.
There was mommy money and daddy dollars that translated into Disney dollars. That's what it was.
Right.
And so if he did a good job, and we just said, it was very vague in the beginning about he had to do a good job, and that meant lining up and so on and so forth in kindergarten. If he did, at the end of the day,
he'd get a mommy.
He got a mommy money or a daddy dollar that he got to come home, and it became a Disney dollar, because when he had like 42 of them, he got to go to Disneyland.
Fantastic.
And he counted them like a crazy person.
That's
he
amazing.
kept them in right. So and we, the day he had 42, we went to Disneyland.
That's
right.
Amazing.
Anytime that happened. But then it got complicated into each. Because there were certain times of the day he did better than others. So there was star charts that had every part of the day, and he had to get a certain number to get the daddy dollar, right? So it was like a token economy with a token economy, right?
Yeah, it's hard.
Then we have it somewhere on our Facebook site, because we did them here, we did a whole video on token economies where we did a format here that you could customize for yourself. There was a big one and a little one that it just had the 5 different times during the day, and you could customize what the stickers were. And there was a place to put what am I working for on it.
Exactly.
And we had 22 little things that you could pick what you were working for. Then he went to just an index card that had check marks on it with nothing written on it, because he was in 6th grade, and he was like, I don't want people seeing. So he would get, if he had 5 little check marks, that meant that he got, time after school. And now, can I tell you how we keep track of how he's doing at school is that I have an app that is, it's called Infinite Campus. and it tells me every time he has a grade, a teacher can give him a behavior grade and it gets sent directly to me, and then I can
Amazing.
show him. So none of his friends can see,
That's
but I
fantastic.
can see.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing.
it kind of, it grows and it shrinks, and it's like whatever. And as you said, it has to be something that teacher is willing to do,
Absolutely.
because you could devise the best token economy, and if the
Absolutely.
teacher is like, or doesn't use it properly,
Yeah.
it's pointless.
But I love that there's an app already that teachers can communicate that way. It's
And by the
fantastic.
way, this is an app that schools are subscribing to that's for everybody on campus. I can set it to tell me all, like if he's late to class, my phone will go ding,
That's
and I know that
amazing.
he's late to class or that he hasn't shown up to class.
That's
How much
amazing.
do we love that?
I know.
And,
It's fantastic. What is it called again?
It's called Infinite Campus.
Infinite Campus.
And it tells me every time he has an assignment,
Right.
what grade he got, or if it's missing,
Wow, that's amazing.
which is spectacular. It averages so that I know every single day. And he has a copy of the app too. And this year at his school, every week on Friday, they make them go into their app themselves and write down their grade so that they're
Perfect.
accountable,
That's right.
which is really wonderful. It's been, I called it infinitely fabulous.
That's amazing. That's
When it works, it's
fantastic.
great. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then I want to throw
Absolutely.
myself down a flight of stairs, because then it's like, oh, you missed this communication, right?
Right.
Okay, I think we should take a short break, and then we're going to be back with a couple of more questions because we're getting down to the end of the hour. Stick with us.
Infinite Campus.
Yeah.
So the school has to turn up.
Parent to parent, you might be asking yourself, how on earth can I afford ABA therapy for my child? Well, the short answer is you can't. No one can. It's really expensive, and it's overwhelming to most families. But the story doesn't end there, fortunately. The first thing that I want you to think about is tapping insurance resources. So many insurance companies are paying for ABA therapy right now. So that's your first best bet. Make sure and see if your insurance company is providing benefits for ABA therapy, and check back often. Now, if you see that you don't have insurance right now for ABA, don't panic. There are still other resources. The next place to go is to your local support groups and ask them what local resources there are. That's a great place to ask for information, because often states and even counties have support for ABA. And then beyond that, you might consider applying for grants. There are many fabulous grants out there to help you to get support for your ABA therapy. But most important, it's absolutely essential that you get ABA services for your child. We know that that's essential for all of our children, and that you won't be able to do it on your own. So seek out those services and support groups that will help you to fund your ABA journey. It's really important to remember that all behaviors happen for a reason. Welcome back. I'm just bringing up Infinite Campus, because I love it so much. Okay, we're here with Dr. Doreen Granpeche, and she's answering your questions in real time. We had a question come in, all in caps. My son is 22 years old, has mild autism, very introverted, says he sometimes hears voices. He has no insurance and doesn't take meds. I need help. What do I do?
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, it is a tough one. You really need to, this is where it becomes very important to go see a psychologist who can help you. I don't know, but I hope you're in our area, because this is exactly what CPHC does, our healthcare clinic. And it would be very, very important to get in touch with a psychologist who has some experience with autism. This could be autism. It could also be schizophrenia. The development of schizophrenia usually starts with hearing voices, but it could just be autism, and your son is not able to differentiate. We all hear voices. We all have the voice inside our head, which is our thoughts. It's when we lose control of those voices that it becomes a little bit dangerous and scary. But it is very important that you get him to see a psychologist, preferably a psychologist who has some experience with autism. We have those people here. I don't know where you are. If you perhaps let us know where you are, and we can try to help you. That's the first thing you do. And then depending on what it is, the treatment for it is different. You know, we have some lessons in skills that have to do with, I think they're called think, say, do, or thinking versus saying. So it helps our individuals understand what it's like to have thoughts in your head that sound like someone else speaking to you. On the other hand, if it's something different, if it's schizophrenia, for instance, then you really have to work on getting the right regimen of medications for him before you do anything else. So I think the more important thing right now is to find out actually what's causing this.
Yeah, I think we all start to panic whenever. I remember Jem being about 6 and saying that he heard somebody say something, and I thought, oh no, you know, is this schizophrenia? I think that's everybody's fear.
Right.
But you know, a lot of times it is that inner voice. There
Yeah,
are all
a lot of
kinds
times
of
it is.
books
Absolutely.
written about this. Eckhart Tolle, you know, writes, you know, endlessly about that voice that says, I'm so tired of this, and then you're thinking, you know, so who said that?
Absolutely.
Is that just a part of myself? And that's a hard concept for an individual who's on the spectrum to understand.
Exactly.
So we want to make sure about that. And even for people who, you know, schizophrenia is not something that anybody particularly wants to have their child diagnosed with, but there's a lot of help for that now, is there not?
There is a lot of help for that, and really it depends on, you know, this is the age that it typically occurs is in the early 30s, 20s to 30s, and you just need to find out soon rather than later, and then there's a lot of medical help, and then of course there are a lot of individuals who, if they are on their medication, do perfectly fine with schizophrenia. So don't worry, don't panic, take it a step at a time. Let's just get the correct diagnosis, find out exactly if there are actually voices, or is he just hearing himself think.
Okay.
That's important.
Next question, how do we calm down a son on a meltdown?
Yeah.
This is a question that we get in lots of different formats.
Right.
Because I talk about fear and being overwhelmed. I think if you've ever had a child who's had a meltdown in a public place, I think it makes you less likely to go out in public. It makes you less, because you're afraid of it.
Absolutely.
Then, you know, and I think our kids pick up on that. You know, I don't think it's a coincidence that our kids sometimes have tantrums, maybe not meltdowns, but tantrums in a place when we least can handle it, right?
Tell me about it.
Right?
I will never forget this like probably hour-long tantrum that my youngest had when she was, I think, I want to say 2 or 3 on a plane. It was crazy. I was like, I took her to the bathroom after a while, and I just stood there with her, tried to put some water on her face, and it was just worse. And I thought to myself, well, while this was happening, I was thinking, well, she's either going to stop at some point, or the captain's actually going to come and like tell me to get off the plane because I'm abusing my child. Like, someone's going to wonder why this child is screaming for an hour, you know?
Can I tell you, though, what I love about this story is that before I had ever heard you tell the story about this, I heard about it from your oldest daughter,
Did you
Nikki.
See what I'm saying? It was terrible. It was
can
traumatic.
I tell you the context of which?
Yes, of course.
That what Nikki says about it was that was the first time that she remembers looking at you and going, "Oh, my mother is amazing."
Are you serious?
Look at seriously, that she looked at. Isn't that funny? That like
That's
for
amazing.
you, it's like a memory of, oh, this is the worst possible moment. But your oldest daughter looked at that and went, "Look at how amazing my mother is."
God bless her.
That you were accepting Charlie for who she was, that you took her in the bathroom and you were like, okay, let it out. And that she just looked at you and went, my mother is an extraordinary
God bless
being.
Nikki. It was like, you know, it wasn't all that simple. I wish it was that just as nice as you said. It started with Charlie throwing her plate in the middle of the walkway and everything, like, oh my gosh, it was pretty intense. But, you know, Charlie was the one that taught me more about behavioral science than anyone else, because she made me put it into practice. But the truth is that a meltdown is always a communication. And, you know, even back then, Charlie was just exhausted. You know, these were 11-hour flights from Europe back. And often my kids would just get exhausted and bored. Mm-hmm. And I think in her case, I in fact remember this, it was frustration over not being able to sleep. She was so tired, and there's jet lag going on, and she was just so tired and so, you know, confined in this small space. And oftentimes I would have a lot of toys and stuff, but sometimes it just isn't enough, and my attention was on the other two.
Right.
And so dealing with that, so to answer this question, it's always about something that the individual is trying to communicate. Unfortunately, at the point when it's happening, that's the worst time for you to try to figure out what it is. You simply have to let the person wear themselves out. There is nothing you can do once it has started. The only thing you can do is ignore it. You cannot attend to it. You cannot find out what it's about. You cannot ask. You cannot try to offer objects. You cannot do any of that, because any of that will just make it worse. It might not make it worse. Like, for instance, if the person's screaming out because they're thirsty and I give them a glass of water, it might not make it worse right then. They might stop right then, but they will learn that if I want water, I will scream. So now you've made a pattern of it. You've reinforced that behavior. So when it's happening, you just need to ignore it and let it go away, as long as you can keep the individual safe. And the reason I took her to the bathroom was because it was disturbing everybody around us. But hey, you want to scream, go ahead and scream. Right. So the issue with how to calm down my son who's on meltdowns is such a broad subject that and we only have 2 minutes, so I can't really give you all of that right here. But what I want to tell you is that it is about communication, and what you have to do is you have to learn about the functions of behavior. You need to go on the Institute for Behavioral Training website, learn what challenging behavior is about. Start learning about the functions, the reason that people act a certain way. There's always a function, a reason. And it's always to gain something or to avoid something. Always. You either want to gain an object, or you want to gain attention, you want to gain activity, or you want to avoid an activity, you want to avoid a place, you want to avoid a demand, you want to avoid a person. It's one or the other, always. And so once you know that, once you can identify why the person is having a meltdown, then it becomes easy to teach them ways to communicate their needs prior to the meltdown. And if you're successful at teaching the person a better way to communicate, the meltdown just will, over time, it'll go away, because the meltdown won't be effective, but the communication will be. And then the person will learn, why am I even freaking out? I can just ask for it. And that's really the way to go. But go to the Institute for Behavioral Training website, IBT.com, ibehavioraltraining.com, and there you'll learn a lot about how to handle meltdowns.
Great. We're so out of time, but when can somebody expect you to be in the card to be in Southwest Florida?
I don't know. I have to find out about that. I know we've made a few. I think we're actually opening a school in Boca Raton right now, is what I understand. But I will find out and I will let you know.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
We enjoy you so much.
Thank you so much.
We're going to take a quick break and go now to the A word. And then when we come back, we're going to be with Nancy Allspaw Jackson for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And our special guests today, 2 of them, we're going to start out with Dave Humphrey from Kirkman Labs. And he's going to be giving us up-to-date information about some exciting things happening with research about how to prevent autism in high-risk cases. And then we're also going to have Vince Redmond, licensed marriage and family therapist. So stick with us. All this after the A word.
Oh, he wants to watch the duck song. He'll want to do it for an hour. Okay. One time duck song, okay?
Mike warns Jack Riley that he will be allowed to watch the duck song one time only. He does this so Jack Riley can anticipate what will happen once the song finishes. Transitions are difficult for him and others with autism because they have a hard time anticipating what comes next. Because of this, they have a hard time planning ahead and being flexible. These skills are considered executive functions.
You guys have to watch this duck song. Oh my gosh! I gotta turn the music. I gotta turn the sound up.
And he said to the man, run in the stand, hey, bump, bump, bump. Got him
Any grapes?
The man said, look, this is getting old. I mean, lemonade's all we've ever sold. Why not give it a go? The duck said, how about no?
How about no?
Then he waddled away, waddle, waddle. Then he waddled away, waddle, waddle, waddle. Then he waddled away, waddle, waddle. Till the very next day.
Okay, go. Why not give it a go? Yay!
All done.
Say bye-bye, duck.
Bye-bye, duck.
Bye-bye, duck.
Bye-bye. No. Oh, no.
Bye-bye,
Don't.
duck. Later. Later.
You know, anger's a cool thing at different times, but not right now.
Hey, we'll watch it again later. Say bye-bye, duck.
Bye-bye, duck.
Say, I'll miss you. I'm sad.
I'm sad. I'm sad. I'm sad.
It's okay.
Learning how to transition is a life skill. Every day, one is constantly transitioning from one activity to the next, and he needs to cope with changes without tantrums and not be fixated on doing the same activity repetitively. Watching the duck song is incredibly reinforcing for him, and he needs something just as interesting to transition to.
Hey, Jack. Here's Dad waddling. Waddle, waddle. Waddle away, waddle, waddle. Waddle away, waddle, waddle.
There you go.
Oh, the big old shark's gonna get you.
I'm gonna swim and get you. I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, he's been really good about saying what he wants lately. We've really been pushing language a lot.
More shark. More shark. Ah, more shark. Okay, ready? Ah, more shark. Ah. What should we play?
Tozzle. Tozzle? Well, tozzle's for brushing your teeth. Do you want to brush your teeth? Tozzle's this game on his iPod that he only gets when he brushes his teeth. Say, Mommy, I want tozzle.
You want tozzle?
I don't know if that means he wants to brush his teeth.
It means he wants tozzle, but sometimes we brush his teeth to get him to get it.
Tozzle.
Show me E. Show me ah. Good job. He doesn't like it when I look because he knows I'm going to take it away. I'll count you down before I take it away, okay?
Cheryl's tactic to help Jack Riley transition to the next activity is to count him down. He understands that once she reaches 1, that the preferred item will be taken away.
No lollygagging. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ready? Okay. Toothbrushing. We're gonna go like this. Hey, that's not how we do it. Watch Mommy. Can you do that? Do that. 1, 2, 3. Yay! Good job.
Yay, Zach Riley,
Good
tozzle.
job.
That was pretty good.
5, 4, 3. Sit down.
Hi, buddy.
Sit down.
Brushing.
3, 2, 1. Yes, I know you know. Okay, we're gonna go bottoms. Like that, okay? Ready? You can do it. 1, 2, 3. Yay!
You did it, Jack.
Good
Good
job.
job.
Good job, Jack.
Jack Riley, we're gonna say bye-bye to Tozzle. Are you ready? Can you give me Tozzle? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, give it to Mommy, please. Good boy. I know it's hard, isn't it? Can you march back to Mommy? March, 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 march! A taste of honey. Taste of honey. And you hug your mommy. That's kind of nice. You want your ears kissed or your nose? Ears. You want your ears kissed or your eyes? Eyes.
No.
You want your ears kissed or your chin? Chin. Where's your chin? Ears?
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Allspaw Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod.
Hello, my friend.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Glad to be alive and
glad
kicking.
to be alive and kicking and, giving everybody you know what.
Yeah.
We've got a big show today, so we should kind of jump into news.
Yes.
Because we got two guests today.
Right.
So pretty excited about that. So did you hear? I'm going to start with the supermarket. Did you hear about this? I think sometimes I feel so overwhelmed, and I shared this with you earlier this week. I feel like I never get anything in the done pile, and I beat myself up sometimes. Like, I'm like, what have I done to help anybody lately, kind of thing, and I sometimes I feel overwhelmed, like none of us can make any difference. But I gotta say, one mom made a big difference at a ShopRite in Pennsylvania as a result of her saying, "Hey, you need to do something a little different." They have introduced a specialized checkout lane
with Play-Doh, putty, rattles, puzzles instead of candy. Thank you. Why can we make this all over the country? One of my biggest problems is the checkout lane.
Right, and I think that is for a lot of people. But so Kristen Jakowski has a 5-year-old daughter, and she's on the autism spectrum, and she experiences meltdowns when she eats sweets and sees candy in the checkouts. And we've talked about this before, that this is a lot of different people.
How many of you out there have this issue?
Yeah, everybody raise your hand. Did we just feel like the whole world go,
right?
Right? In any case, she launched a petition on change.org asking the retailers in general, specifically Target, to offer sensory-friendly shopping lanes. And one of the signers put her in touch with the director of the Brookhaven ShopRite. And less than 2 weeks later, the new checkout lane was open. All right, ShopRite. How to be on
we
that?
love ShopRite, and also, she mentioned that the situation's hard enough already without the stares, comments, and eye rolls of disgust. How many of us feel those?
Oh, yeah.
And have experienced that. And, Wyatt still has an issue with the checkout lane, and I know a lot of our kids do. And if your kid's on a GFCF diet, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Because they can't have what a lot of kids have, and they see these other kids grabbing things. So
Absolutely.
It's not easy.
Absolutely. I see people having kids not on the spectrum having a meltdown in the checkout lane on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So what a great thing. We love ShopRite, and fabulous mom who got the petition started, because I'm sure this is not going to be the only store that catches on. They've gotten so much publicity.
Yeah.
Other stores are going to start to do it. We'll let you know about that, but you'll see it too. Okay, we talk all the time about social skills and social anxiety and wanting our kids to participate. There's more and more discussion about what is it chemically that gets our kids to interact socially. In fact, in just a few minutes, we're going to be talking with Dave Humphrey about a probiotic that has the potential to do this as well. But there is something called D-cyclocerin, I believe is how you pronounce it, that in recent small studies has shown significant improvement in social interactions in older adolescents and young adults with autism. Because aren't we always talking about how there isn't enough for people in this age range? So this is a very interesting...
And this has to do with a gene called protocadarin 10, which is a neurocell adhesion molecule that is involved in brain development and the maintenance of synapses in the brain, okay? And this drug apparently enhances those receptors in the brain. So if this works, I hope it comes out soon. I've been asked many times if there were a drug that would improve Wyatt's most, I guess, what would I say, the more negative symptoms of his autism, would I give it to him? You bet your sweet bippy.
Right. And I think it's important to note that, people aren't talking about changing who the person is.
No.
You don't want to change who Wyatt is. But if it could help him overcome some of his, whatever it is, like
his self-stimulatory, his anxiety.
Like we'd all like to get rid of anxiety
with
in our
people.
kid, right?
Yeah.
But not lose who they are.
Absolutely.
Because you can medicate somebody to the point of where they don't care, but then you lose who they are. And I don't think there's an autism parent that wants that to happen, but we all want to reduce our kids' anxiety.
It's sort of like SSRIs, serotonin reuptakers. They don't change who you are.
Right.
They just help with that serotonin level, and I think that's important.
Absolutely. So there's lots more news, but we've got so many great things going on in the show. In just a minute, we're going to be joined by Dave Humphrey, who is from Kirkman Labs, and he's an incredible gentleman who's working on a bunch of different things, but in particular today, he's going to talk about 2 different studies that he's involved with that look to reduce or eliminate high-risk autism. We're talking about circumstances where in the past, you know, we've seen that one child is born on the autism spectrum, and then that means that the second child that family would be looking to have is at a higher risk to develop autism than anyone else. He's got some pretty exciting news for us. So we're going to take a break and we're going to get Dave on Skype, and then he's also going to talk to us about a new probiotic, which I'm hopeful to try for myself and for my son, that has been found to help with gut issues, but also might have a benefit in social skills as well. So stick with us, Dave Humphrey, after these messages.
Hi, I'm Kara Kaczynski, the Pocket Occupational Therapist, and we're here in Dallas, Texas at the Future Horizons Autism Super Conference. So the book is the Special Needs School Survival Guide, and it's everything you wanted to know about school. It is, okay, so it starts out with just different diagnoses that you might see, and then I explain them in clear terms, no technical jargon, and then each little diagnosis area has about, 50 to 100 activities that you can do at home or at school or cheaply and effectively. So it's just full of information that you can use right now. And the cool thing about it is at the end of every chapter are resources that you can use and access in the internet from a computer. And it's not just for kids with any diagnoses either. It's for kids that are just having trouble with handwriting or with dressing in school or transitions too. Well, both of my kids are on the autism spectrum, so it's important to me that when I learn something for other people, you know, as I research it for occupational therapy, I want to try it at home. So then I take what works and I put it in a book, and what doesn't work, it's thrown out the window. And the other thing is I've just started to research for webinars, because our kids, as you know, if our kids are aging, so they start out these cute little babies with autism, and now they're getting to be teenagers and young adults, and we need help with modifying the environment for them, transition planning, and especially for IEP goal writing, for functional things that they can work on, not just handwriting, but then going beyond into the transition to young adulthood. Yeah, the misnomer at this point in the school systems is that we just do handwriting. So we are actually not handwriting teachers. We can modify or help rectify a grip that's inefficient. So if a child doesn't have that nice, pretty little tripod grasp, we can help to get that. However, when the kid's in 2nd or 3rd grade, then we look at efficiency. So if the grasp is efficient, if it's a quadrupod grasp, or if it's some kind of funky grasp, and the child can write efficiently, then we leave it alone. But if not, then we go to electronic accommodations. So OTs then can look at keyboarding and what kinds of keyboards would fit the student best. Also sensory processing, as the kids get older, it looks different. So we can look at sensory processing as it relates to function in the school. And then we also can look at behavior and transition planning. Other things we can do is work on seating. So if the child's having trouble sitting still in the classroom, we can modify that too. So not just handwriting, not just sensory, but we look at behavior, transitions, so anything that affects that student's school day. Right, so that's a really good question, because sensory processing disorder did not make it into the last DSM, which is the way that medical professionals classify disorders. So it did make it into the classification under autism, but sensory processing disorder is very confusing, and a lot of therapists treat it differently. So the general overview is that sensory processing is either a heightened response to stimuli in the environment or a too low, which is hypo, response. So if the student perceives perceives every noise around them is equally as important, or every feeling. So I'm sitting here, I can feel the chair, my sweater, the noise around me. Then it's hard to concentrate and focus in the classroom on what you're supposed to be paying attention to. So we would use something, maybe a suggestion could be a weighted lap pad or some kind of fidget tool for the student to fidget with, or we can even look at special positioning in the classroom, so preferred seating. Then with sensory, transitions can be hard because any unexpected bump in the classroom or in line can set the child off into a fight or flight, which is when they really have a tantrum and freak out. So when they're in a fight or flight mode, they may fly off the handle for no apparent reason, maybe just being bumped by another student. So it's our job to be detectives and to figure out why the student is having that meltdown. So my CDs were created for my own kids my son in kindergarten didn't like the fire drills. So he was afraid to even step foot into the classroom because the fire alarm may sound. Of course, the school's not going to say, oh, let's just set off the fire alarm for your son, Bob. So we thought, where can we get a fire alarm? So we went into a recording studio and picked a whole plethora of sounds that you couldn't control, fireworks, thunder, sirens, and we put them on a CD, and I wrote nursery rhymes, changing the words to blender, blender, it's okay, or different little, Mary had a little lamb is, something to do with thunder. So they're kind of fun, and that way the student can control the volume of the sound. It's not a listening therapy, there's no headphones involved. It's just a fun way to control sounds that you normally couldn't control. So they're for sale at my website, thepocketot.com.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy and I are joined right now by David Humphrey. He is the Forum Institute Board President. He's an attorney, a CEO of an amazing company, Kirkman Labs, that we talk about, Kirkman Group, Inc., that we talk about here on the show quite a bit. He is a board member of Autism Care and Treatment Today, and that's not the only board that he's on. And he's somebody who, honestly, I think has been at the forefront of so much research that has been done and is being done to get us closer to having answers about why and how someone ends up getting an autism spectrum disorder. And so, David, we really want to welcome you and thank you for coming back to the show. You've got some major things going on. Let's start with a partnership that you have going on right now with the University of Georgia. Tell us what's going on and why we should all be so excited about this.
Hello?
Hi,
Yeah, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
Did you hear that last question about the major announcement with the University of Georgia? Can you tell us about that?
Yes. I was in Athens, Georgia last week, attended by almost all of the major people on the campus, including the provost, the head of public health, and Dr. Cordero, who used to be in charge of the CDC for early childhood care. And we're doing a joint venture with the University of Georgia to focus on a very intriguing project called P2I, which is, can we go ahead and by having a scientific protocol from preconception through the first years of life, significantly improve the safety of pregnancy, but more importantly, can this be the key for us to really dramatically reduce chronic disease in children? And obviously autism is a primary category, but also cancer, diabetes, juvenile Crohn's disease, a whole list of things that affect almost 30% of all the children by the age of 5 will have a chronic disease they won't recover from.
Devastating. And so break it down for us just a little bit, Dave, if you would. So P2I, my understanding is that you're looking at high-risk autism. So people who are getting pregnant who already have a child who's on the autism spectrum, is that correct?
No, actually, this is a public health issue, and we intend in Georgia to include all 130,000 infants born. The program is designed so that every child will be able to have a genomics test and what's called an exposomics test, which is exposures. This is the reason that children get sick. and they have chronic diseases. So let me give you an example, and that is childhood leukemia. That it was thought before the Human Genome Project that leukemia, childhood leukemia, which basically 1 in 200 children will get leukemia by the time they're 18, and it's the second leading cause of death. That we thought this was a genetic issue, but when the Genome Project was completed, we understood that 98% is from exposures, and for juvenile leukemia, it's primarily in the womb and immediately after birth, and that if those can be determined through measurements and with mass spec measurements of people during their pregnancy, we can figure these things out and prevent these conditions. Here's the exciting thing, is that autism fits into this category. We believe that this project with the University of Georgia will be the first step in basically saying there's a potential of predicting and preventing all autism. And the program came to us with one of our doctors in the autism arena, Dr. Berger. In a casual conversation several years ago, Dr. Berger explained to us that he has had 600 live births because he's a pediatrician, and rather than having 38% miscarriage, he's had virtually none. Virtually none. This is out of 600. For preterm babies, rather than having 12%, and 12% creates a problem with a 10-point loss of IQ and about 10 years less life expectancy, he's had 1% rather than 12. But here's the big payoff pitch. David, and then also the other doctors that we've tracked with similar protocols, have almost no childhood disease.
Yeah.
No cancers, no autism, no attention deficit disorder, nothing except really healthy kids. So this is what we started on, and the Forum Institute is a very sophisticated think tank. It's recognized as the largest and the best on the planet for special need. We did the Autism Treatment Network. We published extensively in the publications like Pediatrics. And what we really try to do is bring consensus. So I know this is a lot of information for your viewers, but
it's important.
Yes, and I have a question, Dave. You mentioned exposures. What exposures? What types of exposures?
When we're looking at testing women for the exposures that they have, what we're really looking for, Nancy, is the 240 toxins that have a direct impact on the development of the fetus, especially brain development. This is where we're seeing autism develop, is the impact in the second trimester to the frontal lobal area. And these effects on the brains of the children have profound effects on regressive autism. So what we're doing is we're trying to reduce that level. The second area that we're looking at is an area called microbiome. It is the chemicals that come from basically bad guts. If mother is eating the wrong kinds of foods, if she has a lot of bad bacteria, this will come in the form of chemicals going into the placenta, crossing the barrier, and affecting the development and the brain development of the child. The microbiome likely has 3 times the effect of external chemicals. Stress plays a small role in that, probably 5 or 10%. But if we combine these, for childhood diseases, 95% of all the childhood diseases come from these 3 categories.
Wow. And now I understand that there's something called the 3D virtual campus. Dave, talk to us a little bit about that.
Here's the cool thing. Look, this is complicated, and as parents know that have children with autism, they spend a lot of money, they fly into conferences to get a lot of information, and they still can't get enough information with thousands of dollars out of pocket. So we decided that to help people through the critical time of preconception to infancy on all that they have to do, the protocol is a 150-page protocol, for example, with CME courses for doctors, that we needed to have a gathering place that was so spectacular that people would want to come and stay. And this is a 3D campus where you're an avatar, and you can go to the CME courses, you can meet with other parents. It has high-definition virtual conferencing. And it's technology that has been developed with millions of dollars, and we're fortunate enough it can hold 150,000 people a day. Just imagine coming to the very best medical conference you can possibly imagine. It's all free. And papers we publish there, and And this is the heart of the program, a revolutionary way to get this information out to the public.
Okay, we got a video that we want to show, and then we're
Video
going to
is
come
great.
back and talk about the new paper in pediatrics. But first, let's take a look at this video.
Imagine for a moment a world, a virtual world that offers a revolutionary approach to healthcare. It's an approach that allows couples to collaborate seamlessly with their physicians to plan their families from preconception to infancy. The Forum has created this world through its virtual campus that's set to open next year. Once open, up to 150,000 people can interact at any given time. They can take part in global discussions such as CME courses, small group study, or individual research. Now that you've arrived, we invite you to take the next step by joining us for a tour. Welcome to the Preconception to Infancy Virtual Campus. You're about to see highlights of a first-of-its-kind, innovative education and engagement center. The purpose of the P2I Virtual Campus is to provide a central hub of interaction for a variety of audiences, including medical professionals, prospective parents, researchers, health advocates, and the general public. If you're hearing about the P2I program for the first time, let's start with an overview. Over the past several years, the Oregon-based nonprofit, the Forum, has supervised research that has revealed a new understanding of how to prevent or significantly reduce the incidence of chronic disorders among infants. These illnesses include cancer, attention deficit disorder, asthma, autism, bipolar disorder, epilepsy, celiac, dyspraxia, and serious food allergies. Based on this research, the Forum has developed a protocol, the P2I protocol, to guide mothers before, during, and after pregnancy to foster their baby's healthy development. P2I was established on the conviction that existing hard science and clinical practice offer a means of improving outcomes when practitioners use a defined protocol from preconception through infancy. The P2I program represents years of study and countless hours of planning to ensure our program is in the top tier of all medical research and implementation work being done today. P2I is not an entirely new concept, but its development, modeled in large part after a program developed by the CDC, is poised to bring about the greatest healthcare advancement of this generation. The P2I Virtual Campus serves as a key tool in the Forum's efforts to reach all of its audiences: women, parents, medical professionals, researchers, and advocates, all on a global level. Its campus-like design includes virtual buildings or pavilions through which visitors can navigate, get directions, or otherwise interact with avatars. Most pavilions, such as the Center of Excellence Pavilion, will be repositories of information, such as the science that underlies P2I. Once inside the Center of Excellence Pavilion, visitors can access information by watching lectures or video presentations, or by reading, or through various forms of interactivity, such as discussion rooms. Another popular section of the campus is the P2I Resource Pavilion. Thousands of medical professionals will be guided to this building to take courses leading to their P2I certification. And once they become certified through our accredited courses, their names and contact information will be included in our medical professional referral listing so that women from around the world can contact them. Other features of the campus will be special buildings for our key partner institutions. These facilities will house our health partners, including the University of Georgia College of Public Health, the Centers for Disease Control, and the National Institutes of Health. As visitors navigate through various portals and indicate their interest in certain topics, they'll receive options for accessing more information. This is one of the ways they'll learn about the Exhibitor Center. This area will also have a strong presence on our site and will be visible to visitors once they enter the campus's P2I Welcome Hall. Visitors will be guided by an avatar, offering special information about our premier exhibitors to encourage more traffic to these pavilions. And with steady promotion, we'll be on track to experience exponential visitor growth.
Welcome back. We're in awe of that wonderful campus, and what a brilliant idea. Can't wait. When do we expect to be able to visit that?
Well, two things. The campus will open amidst about a 60 million exposure PR campaign we're going to be doing nationally, probably in March of next year. And then at the same time, there'll be a Center of Excellence opening in Atlanta that's open to the public. And it will be the leading OBGYNs, and it will be a 5-year protocol to protect women from preconception through the first 5 years of life. And that will be in Atlanta. And then we'll also have doctors do the same protocol nationwide on the campus.
Spectacular.
But campus is the key to it, and that'll open up. But it's also, here's the cool thing. It's free. All the information is free. The CME courses for parents will be free. And there'll never be a charge on the campus. It'll all be supported through donations, and there'll be some commercial exhibitors there.
You're singing my song. Free. It's just my price.
Free.
Free. I love it. Love it. Love it. Now, I want to shift a little bit into talking about, you've got a new 83-page paper in pediatrics. Talk to us a little bit about that, Dave.
Okay, so here's the idea, and it's a sensitive point because a lot of your viewers have children with autism, and you know the notion was this is a hard genetic condition that could not have been prevented. This 83-page paper in pediatrics is a really significant landmark paper. It was just reviewed by IAC, which is the intergovernment source that deals with special needs children. There were 3 papers presented in that single issue, and the 3 papers won Best 20 Papers of the Year award, which is really unusual for a brand new publication. The reason it does is it establishes the notion that we can see micro gestures in 1-year-old, which are precursors for that child developing autism. This is before they have autism. This is 1 year old. And with that, we can have an intervention called the Denver Early Start Intervention Program. And in the literature, and Doreen Grant-Pichet did a pilot program, and this is really important information. If we can spot that 1-year-old with these micro gestures, and then the parents can institute a program called Early Start Denver Model Program, about 20 hours a week. It's a modified ABA program. That here is the result. The repair of the circuitry of the damage done to the frontal lobal area because of the plasticity of the brain can occur, and that child will never likely develop autism. And in the literature, and with Doreen's experiment that she ran with a control group of 35 of these children, here's the take-home deal. Their average IQ was 127 at the end of that period. Now, I want all of your viewers to think for a second that if we can have a child at 1 that would otherwise develop regressive autism, if we can recognize and prevent that at the age of 1 with the parents with no cost being able to do this in their homes, trained by the same kind of videos on the campus, and we're really hoping that Doreen can be part of this. At the end of it, they'll either significantly reduce the effects of autism or eliminate it all completely, have a perfectly normal child, except for one thing. It'll likely be the smartest kid in the class.
Right.
And this is, okay, now we're starting to challenge the notion whether autism is a regressive gene. What if the toxicity damaged the frontal lobal area, creating the regression, and meanwhile the middle cortex, which is where autism really has the enhanced value, and many of the parents watching know that they spot a genius in their child with many things. We have a lot of autistic savants. What if they didn't have the damage to the frontal cortex? What if that could be repaired at the age of 1? This paper was the consensus position of 26 of the top scientists. Doreen was a co-author of the paper, along with Margaret Bowman from the powerful Boston University Harvard Ladders program. This is a really significant program. Now, the end result is the autism czar of the state of Georgia took a look at it, and they're very, very interested in starting to recognize and starting to train people on how to recognize these children at one. We need to talk a lot more about this, because what's at stake with preconception to infancy and then the early one-year-old program is an opportunity to significantly reduce, if not eliminate, autism. And parents may be wondering, listening to this, well, what's in it for me if I have a child?
Exactly. I was just about to ask you that question, Dave. Okay, this is all great news for people that are intending to have children, have an infant. What about the child who already has autism? Does it offer hope?
Right. Most of the money is going to go for the ever-increasing number of infants that are diagnosed with autism. Enormous amounts of money. Estimates of really $1 trillion a year in the next 20 years. So what we're looking at is we've got to find a way to turn that spigot off or reduce it, so we can provide money for jobs and job training and education and a critical area of medical care. There's the rate of death for 20 to 30-year-olds who are autistic are 10 times higher than the average person. That does not have to be. Our parents are being subjected to a very uncertain future with their children because of lack of government money and state money and facilities, and all of that is going to the newborn, and we all know that. My reason for doing this and my love of this community is we've got to find a way to provide more money and resources for this population, your children, and your teenagers and your adults. And I've been in this for 20 years, and it's gone from a 5-year-old to a 25-year-old, and the problems don't stop. We need money for these people. We can't do it without a program like this.
It's a great point, though, and I've never heard it put
Very
so eloquently that
to the point.
in order to get money for our older kids, we need to shorten the amount of time for the younger kids,
Right.
and diminish the number of younger kids that have to go through the extensive intervention. So good point.
Yeah, and Dave, thank you. This is just fascinating, and I know that all of our viewers are going to be extremely interested in following the developments on this. And thank you for joining us today and the enlightening conversation. And we wish you the best of luck with P2I and the
Are you
new
coming
project.
for Denim and Diamonds?
I would love to, and let me give a 30-second close on this. Many of your viewers know and loved Bernie Rimland, who was sort of the father of our autism movement. And Bernie, in his last days, checked out of hospice and worked on a document with me of what is the future things that we need to do. And right in that document, Bernie and I worked on, it was we have to develop tools for predicting and preventing autism based on environmental causes. And I have that document, and that was done 10 years ago. This is the vision of the great man. And it's one of the driving reasons why I've gone ahead and had such passion, and Doreen has had such passion with this. And we're at the threshold, and we've accomplished the first significant step. And I want everybody to understand that this is really coming from a need to do something to stop these increasing numbers. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you for bringing up Dr. Rimland, a great visionary, as are you, Dave Humphrey, and Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichette.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're in the presence of
Thanks,
greatness.
guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Take care. We'll look forward to hearing more. We have to take a short break, and then we're going to come back with Vince Redmond, licensed and marriage family therapist, who's a regular here on the show.
Let's
Stick
get
with
back
us.
real quick. Whoop. Thank you, Dave. Where's that?
She's working on it.
Thank you, Dave.
Yep, thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Hi, welcome back to Autism Live and What's Left. I'm here with my good friend Amy. I'm so glad you could come back.
It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. Amy, where are you from?
New Jersey.
Jersey?
Jersey.
Jersey. Great. Well, I love having you here. She's with Amy, one of our partners here on Autism Live, and we're going to cook up something really yummy today. What's on the menu?
So we're going to do pudding.
Wonderful.
You know, something that kids all like, but we're really focusing on trying to increase the healthy fats that our kids are getting. Avocados are a great source of healthy fats. but a lot of our kids are very adverse to green foods.
Right.
So pudding, especially a chocolate pudding, is a fabulous way to get the healthy fats in our kids without them knowing it.
Yes, and that's so yummy.
When we
And-
think about most puddings are usually made with dairy, right, which we're trying to be milk-free, it's the fat in the milk that gives us that creaminess. So in this case, we're going to use the avocado to do the same thing.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what do we got on deck first?
So we're going to start with some sprouted almonds.
Great.
And let's do a little bit of coconut oil. in with that,
Wonderful.
coconut butter.
And it's warmed up, I see, so, or I feel.
So basically what we're trying to do here is make like an almond butter.
Okay, so I can go ahead and start that up? Wonderful. I think we're good.
Okay.
So do we need it more creamy than that?
I think it's supposed to be.
Yeah, so let me do a little more. So that is definitely creamier.
Yes. So now we're going to add some honey.
Wonderful. How much of honey do you put
Fourth
into
a cup.
Great.
And this is where, again, depending on how sweet of a palate your child has, you can either do a little bit less or a little bit more. The nice thing is that honey is a very natural sweetener.
Correct.
So it's very good for our kids to have.
It is easier to digest than certain sugars. out
Exactly.
there.
It's pure. It's more
Right.
nature-based. And the other nice thing is that it's very antibacterial.
Right.
So it's got a lot of healing properties
Wonderful.
that other sugars would not have.
What do we got next?
So this is just filtered water.
Wonderful.
We are going to add in three-fourths of a cup of cocoa powder.
Okay, 3/4 of a cup. Look at me guess.
Yes, you're.
I think everyone who's watched me before knows I hate to measure. Isn't that terrible? And this is
And-
also a dairy-free pure cocoa powder, which is really important to stay away from.
And again, trying to buy like fair trade cocoa,
right. It is.
organic, is really the healthiest.
A little bit of
A
salt.
little bit of salt.
Okay.
We're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, hello, vanilla.
So now we're going to add in 2 avocados.
Great, and we got some extra ripe ones. And is it better to go extra ripe with this?
It definitely is going to be softer, so it's going
Right.
to make it easier to scoop it out.
Right. Oh, this is so yummy. You would never think avocado and chocolate.
Right.
How
right.
does that
it's amazing.
translate?
It's amazing.
Awesome. Good to know, because I would never for a million years, I would say Mexican food or pretty much anything but breakfast food, but not chocolate.
And I think also like if kids get introduced with avocados this way, that when you then try to transition them into something that actually is more, it's more apparent that there's an avocado.
Right.
The taste buds will already now recognize the flavor.
I call that its natural habitat.
Exactly.
Got it. Are we ready to go?
We're ready.
Awesome.
So we're basically going to blend it until it's very well mixed.
So, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. So how would you serve this?
So basically just serve it like you would pudding.
Okay, great.
In this case, it
Am
probably
I-
needs to be
Just
chilled a
kidding.
little
Oh,
bit.
Okay. I'll wait to put it in my mouth. That is so funny. Oh, this looks and smells like chocolate, really good pudding.
Exactly.
Not the healthy thing that we're trying to fool our kids with. Oh, Amy, what a great idea. And the good fats, like you said, good for the brain, good for digestion. I love it. So how long would I refrigerate this?
I don't think it needs a long time.
Okay.
I think it's more that we've used coconut butter.
Right.
And so it's going to melt at a temperature that's room temperature.
Well, welcome back. I guess we're just going to have to, Vince, hey, you're on. I guess we're just going to have to see the rest of that pudding, chocolate pudding, avocado
that look
pudding
good,
later.
though?
It looked great.
It tasted
And
good, too.
we are back, and we are joined by Vince Redmond, marriage and family therapist, and of course, ABA. Expert here, and he's always here every month to lend us his guidance. And Vince, we were talking about in the news meltdowns and this supermarket that started specialized checkout lanes because of a mom whose young daughter, 5-year-old daughter Navy, had meltdowns. So it was hooray to that supermarket. We wanted to talk to you a little bit about meltdowns, and Shannon,
And
you
in
had
fact,
something interesting.
Yeah, I wanted you to talk a little bit, Vince, about the fact that it's a two-way street, that not only is it the kids having a meltdown, but that sometimes as parents, because of our thoughts and feelings and concerns about it, we have reactions. And one of the things that I was saying during the break is that when Jem used to have meltdowns, I had so much anxiety about it that I stopped going out because I was so afraid he would have one. And that's not uncommon, correct?
Right. And actually, the meltdowns shaped your behavior to be avoidant, right?
Yeah.
So what it did is inadvertently it reinforced and strengthened the behavior of the meltdown, which one of the things that we first have to do is figure out what the meltdown is for, right? What is the function of the meltdown? Is it escape avoidance? They don't want to be there. Is it because they were denied a tangible? They didn't get a treat? Is it because, their anxiety was so high in being in social situations? We need, there's too much anxiety. I mean, there's lots of different reasons why the meltdowns could occur. And for us to be able to know as the adults, how do we respond? We need to first understand what the meltdown, what the function of the meltdown was for. And once we can understand that, then we can set up a really good blueprint and game plan on how we're supposed to respond.
So, okay, easier.
That we don't have that, and that makes it hard.
Yeah, Vince, easier said than done sometimes, and I know with best intentions. So what we need to do, I guess, is what you're saying is we need to, especially if our child is having these while they're not in the process of one, figure some of these things out. Let's take an example. Let's take the checkout lane. And let's take how can a parent, let's say, okay, I take Wyatt, he has meltdowns often in the checkout lane. It's usually about wanting a candy, wanting a chocolate bar. He knows he can't have that. He'll grab it, I'll say put it back, and then he'll start to melt down. And he's got me between a rock and a hard place because there's a line in back of me. I'm embarrassed. We're all like freaking out. The people don't know what to do. And he knows he's more likely to get his way if he has that meltdown.
Right. And again, to your point of you can't figure it out right then, right? I mean, this takes some time to sit back and to analyze it and look at what led to it, to be able to come up with a function. So I definitely agree with you. It's not something that we're going to be able to do on the spot. But with your example, your example is, it's a denying of a tangible, right? He wants that one candy bar and he can't have it because of his diet or too much sugar, or maybe just a preference, and we're not able to do that. So what we need to do is establish a reinforcement system that he can have while he's out in the community, especially the grocery store, right? And practice it as much as we can in times where we're not actually shopping, right? Times that we don't need to rush through the line, where we can actually work on it. Now, we can do that with the professionals, with the therapists, but parents can do this as well. But the key to that would be to establish an equally reinforcing reinforcer that we could use that's going to be used to reinforce his good behavior in the store. That would be my first suggestion, is we would need to find something that would be just as powerful.
What about going over rules in advance? I get the reinforcer, and maybe I take in a mint or something he can have, sugar-free, dye-free mint. What about going over the rules before we go in? Is that something you suggest, like saying, okay, we're going to go in the store, we're going to be quiet, we're going to stick with mom, and we're not going to have anything that we know we're not allowed? Is that something you recommend?
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what we want to do. We want to go and we want to talk to them and give them the predicted behaviors that we expect of them going through the store. Holding onto the cart, not running away, not entering, and basically you're setting up their expectations. If we do this, and then you'll say, and then you can get your mint or your gum or your chewy or whatever it may be that we establish as the reinforcer. And then this way they can predict, they know what they're supposed to do, they know what they're going to be involved in when they're at the store. And then this way it gives them the game plan, it gives them a blueprint on how to get their reinforcer. And they realize that when, by doing it that way, they get a reinforcer. By throwing a tantrum, they get nothing. They will shape their behaviors to do what's going to get them what they want.
Yeah, something that somebody said to me, it might have been you, Vince, but somebody said to me at some point, when I come to work, I know what the expectations are of me, and I know when I'm going to get my paycheck. If I came to work and I was working for, weeks on end, and I still didn't know when my paycheck was going to come or what my paycheck was going to look like, I might not do the level of work that I do, right? And so in at whatever ability the person is, whether we're talking about a 3-year-old who's nonverbal or we're talking about a 17-year-old who's verbal, letting them know, here's what the expectation is, here's how long it's going to take, and here's what your paycheck is.
Right.
It's that thing that we talk about all the time, Nancy, about it's a duh.
Expectations and being clear and firm in what's
But
expected.
It feels like in the moment that it's going to take so much time and so much energy. And the reality of it is that it takes an expenditure of energy in the beginning and it saves us so much time and energy on the other end. But we have to recondition ourselves, right, Vince? We have to know what the paycheck is.
And you're exactly right. If we don't know what our reinforcer is, it might not be powerful enough, right? Because we don't know. If I was going to get paid 50 cents for 3 weeks worth of work, then it's not going to be very powerful, right?
Right.
But if I know I'm going to get a regular paycheck and I know it's going to be on a regular schedule, I'm going to work just as hard each week. But going back to what you guys were saying about if we lay out the expectations, we lay out the expected behaviors and then what their payout's going to be, we, again, making sure that that's going to be worth their, what they want to work for, but then we have to practice it. And that's where, like you said, it's going to be much effort up front because they're going to be trying the way that they're used to getting things done and learning a new way. But once that established expectation and we've stuck to our routine and done it every time, then their behaviors will shape moving forward.
Vince, what about sensory overload meltdowns? That seems to me to be a little bit more difficult of a thing to deal with as a parent. Do you have any tips for us on that? I mean, is one thing that comes to mind for me, and this is once again something to run by you, should we kind of be aware of patterns? Like if our kid, they become overheated, they're outdoors, bright sunlight, bright noise. Should we start being aware of that? What can we do about sensory overload meltdowns?
Great question. Yeah, absolutely. Because our kids do get very, obviously the processing, sensory processing delays is very common with our kids. And it depends on what the sensory is. Sometimes it's noises, sometimes it's sound or, light, sometimes it's heat, sometimes it's a combination of all of it, right, together. And again, using our grocery store example, in one of my functions that, as I said, could be just sensory overload, right? There's lights, there's wind, there's sound, there's noise, there's people, and then there's all this, expectation that's made of them. And like you said, if we can find a pattern and we see that they sensory get overloaded by one or many senses, we can now predict what's going to happen if we put them in an environment that's going to be highly, sensory driven. So then we can, have different methods to try to ease it. We can come up with a game plan. Maybe they only stay in that environment for 5 minutes. Then there's a pullout. Like you said, if it's heat, we make sure we have ice packs or those cool towels that you can wrap around their necks, to cool them down. If it's sound, you see those kids, lots of kids that have the noise mufflers, which are great ideas to be able to reduce the sensory input that they're getting so that they can enjoy the environments that they're going to.
I gotta say, when the biggest tantrum that we would have in the same grocery store every single week, and it was so debilitating. I kept keeping charts on behavior and trying to figure out what the pattern was. It took a third set of eyes, a therapist coming to the store with us, and they were able to see in one visit that there was a change in the floor tile. That it went from a smooth to squares, and I didn't know that Jem had a visual problem. And then I started noticing it. Like, he would always have a tantrum when we were leaving Disneyland in the parking structure, and I thought it was because we're leaving Disneyland.
Right.
Well, it's because there's tile there, and his eyes, like, that was unsafe.
Yeah.
And so it set us on a path where they did systematic desensitization. Right. With Jem, and it changed everything.
Wow.
But I did not know for months.
I wonder how many kids have this.
Right? But until you have somebody with that third eye, that's why I always say your program has to have legs. Take the therapist with you. I think a lot of parents misunderstand that if the therapist goes, then that the parent is hands off and the therapist does everything. I like when you take your child, you go, and the therapist only talks to you, not to your child. I think that's the best parent training, and that's when you get the best possible results.
And that increases our collaborations together, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
That's true.
You know, I think this is such, I know we're, how much?
We got 2 minutes.
Okay. I think this is such an important topic. And can we do this next month and get into
Absolutely.
some more specifics, Vince?
Sure.
Okay, because I want to also talk about, first of all, I want to invite our viewers to write in.
Yes.
Write some of your specific meltdown tantrum situations, what you need guidance and help with, so we can get those to Vince.
Yes.
And also, we want to deal with the parent in our next show with you, Vince, on this topic of meltdowns and tantrums. We want to talk about the parent part of the equation, because for me, when Wyatt was at his zenith of I would say autism, when he was so severely affected at age 4, he would have like 9-10 a day tantrums, and some of those would last a half an hour. And
Right.
I could not get my equilibrium back. I could not get back to center in any way, shape, or form, and I was dreading the next one. So I want to talk to you, maybe in a minute, you could tell us some tips for parents.
Yeah, we've got 1 minute.
1 minute.
No,
Save the world, Vince.
no pressure. No, and you're right. I mean, I think a lot of it is our anxiety goes up, and this is why it's for the kids, it's very effective to throw a tantrum out in public, because our anxiety is heightened because of social judgment and social eyes, and all the social situations that happen when we're out there. We tend to automatically try to stop it as quickly as we can. So our anxieties are heightened. They're getting reinforced. We don't know what to do, and then the stress of eyes on us, now we're being judged. It's a nightmare. And what happens though is we need it's pre and a post, right? So pre-tantrum, if we go in with the plan and we have that strategy that Shannon was talking about, where we're collaborating with a professional, we've come up with a strategy, our anxieties are going to be a little bit lower because we have a plan, right? And we know how to react, and we know what we need to do. So it's a little bit better because we're anticipating it and we know what to do. So that's one part of the anxiety, the pre-anxiety. Then we have the post-anxiety. What do we do? Our adrenaline's going to go up, our anxiety's going to go up, even if we know what to do when the tantrum still happens. We have to find a way to be able to center ourselves afterwards. We can do everything 100% correct, and then we have to do something to ourselves to make ourselves calm down. This is where breathing exercises will come in. This is where, giving yourself a mental break. This is, different types of techniques that we can do, or we can talk to the family about, to give yourself a 2, 3, 4 minute break to be able to gather yourself, gather your thoughts, gather your breathing again, so that you can go ahead and proceed forward.
Okay,
Love it.
great. And
We're
we're gonna continue this topic next month. And so for viewers, please write into us with your
Yes.
questions. We'll be back with Vince. Sound like a plan, Vince?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you so
All right,
much,
thank
Vince.
you, Vince.
Always a consummate
And
professional.
And when we come back next month talking about this topic, I've got a really kind of amusing, funny story about when Wyatt had one of the worst tantrums of his life when our regional center coordinator was visiting at the house.
Oh, that's called timing. All right. Thank you so much, Vince, for being with us. We're totally out of time, but we are back tomorrow. It is my birthday tomorrow. We're going to do a special show tomorrow with all my favorite things on it. So you won't want to miss that.
Thank
so
God
make
she
sure.
said that.
Yeah, my age, you got to put it out there.
That's
anyway, so make sure that you tune in tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.
Your birthday?
Yes.
Whoa.